The palace of Kalira glimmered under the twin suns, its walls made of crystal-like stone that reflected light in dazzling colors. Inside, the corridors were wide and grand, with banners hanging from the ceiling, each depicting a chapter of Kalira's long and proud history. Servants moved quietly, bowing politely as they passed courtiers who whispered and glanced nervously at the throne room. Princess Liara walked through the halls, her long hair flowing behind her, her expression tense. Today she had been summoned to see her father, King Valor, the ruler of Kalira. She knew that summons from the king were never for small matters. Her heart beat faster with each step and her mind raced with possibilities. When she entered the throne room, the massive doors closed behind her with a heavy thud. The room was vast, filled with sunlight streaming through high windows. King Valor sat on his throne, tall and commanding, his expression serious. Around him were advisors and nobles, all standing silently waiting. "Liara," the king began, his voice deep and steady, "I have called you here for a matter of great importance." Liara curtsied deeply. "Yes, father?" Her voice was calm, but inside a storm of worry churned. The king's eyes softened slightly as he looked at his daughter. "You are now of age. It is time for you to take a partner. A union must be made to strengthen our alliances. After careful thought, I have decided that your future mate shall be Commander Kale of Earth." The name echoed in Liara's mind. "Commander Kale of Earth?" she repeated, disbelief and fear mixing in her tone. "Yes," the king replied. "He is a human who has proven himself in many battles across the galaxy. His skill and leadership are unmatched." Liara's eyes widened. "Father, no. Not him! You cannot mean—" "That human? I have heard what humans are like. Merciless, cruel, and dangerous." Her voice rose with panic, and she took a step back, shaking her head. "No way, father. Not that human." The king's expression hardened. "Liara, you will address me with respect. This is not a matter of choice. It is your duty as a princess of Kalira. Humans are feared, yes, but they are also strong, loyal, and capable of honor. Commander Kale represents a chance for peace and strength for our people." Liara's mind raced. She remembered stories she had heard from other nobles. Tales of humans taking entire planets by force, of their soldiers showing no mercy in war, of their cold, calculating minds. Her stomach turned at the thought of living with one of them. She could not imagine being safe around a human, let alone sharing her life with one. "But father," she pleaded, "he is dangerous. I cannot marry someone like that. Please, there must be another way. There must be another choice." The king sighed, his eyes heavy with the weight of leadership. "Liara, you must understand. Commander Kale is not here to harm you or your people. He is here as an ally. This union will bring stability. Your fear is natural, but it must not control your actions. You are a princess of Kalira. You must be brave." Liara bowed her head, feeling the weight of his words pressing on her. She wanted to trust her father, but the fear of the unknown gripped her heart tightly. The room seemed to shrink around her, the whispers of the courtiers turning into an overwhelming chorus. After a long pause, King Valor spoke again. "Commander Kale will arrive tomorrow. You will meet him in the palace courtyard. Prepare yourself, Liara. You will not refuse him." Liara's chest tightened. She could barely breathe. The idea of meeting a human, the one she had heard so many terrifying stories about, filled her with dread. That night she could not sleep. She wandered the palace gardens, the soft wind brushing her face, and tried to calm her racing thoughts. "I cannot," she whispered to herself, staring at the stars. "I cannot marry him. He will be merciless. He will hurt me, hurt my people." The moonlight reflected off the fountains, and the soft sound of water did little to ease her fear. She had spent her entire life being careful, surrounded by security and safety. The thought of being near a human warrior, someone trained for battle, someone who had fought countless enemies, was unbearable. The next morning the palace buzzed with activity. Courtiers and soldiers gathered in the courtyard, their eyes fixed on the sky. A massive shadow appeared above, growing larger with each passing second. Liara's heart skipped a beat as a human starship descended, its metal surface shining under Kalira's twin suns. King Valor stood beside her, tall and composed. "This is him," he said quietly. "Commander Kale." The starship landed with precision and the doors opened. A human stepped out. He was tall, with short dark hair, wearing a clean uniform that spoke of discipline and order. He moved with confidence but not arrogance, his gaze scanning the courtyard respectfully. Liara froze. He looked different from what she had imagined. Not cruel, not terrifying, yet still strong and commanding. He approached slowly, bowing slightly in respect. "Princess Liara," he said in a calm, even voice. "It is an honor to meet you. I come with respect for you and your people." Liara's eyes widened. His voice was not harsh. There was no menace in his expression. Yet the stories in her mind screamed warnings. Humans are dangerous. Do not trust him. I am Princess Liara, she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Welcome to Kalira." Commander Kale nodded. "Thank you, Princess. I am here to serve, not to harm. I wish only to build trust and friendship between our worlds," the king's advisors whispered among themselves. Some looked skeptical, others curious. Liara felt a strange mixture of fear and confusion. The human was not what she had imagined, yet the warnings she had grown up with were hard to ignore. For the rest of the day, Kyle was introduced to the palace, its customs, and the people he would soon live among. He observed everything carefully, asking questions and learning quickly. His presence was commanding but not frightening. He spoke politely to servants and courtiers alike, showing respect and patience. Liara could not stop watching him. Each time she thought of him as the merciless human she had feared, he would do something small. A kind gesture, a careful word, that contradicted the stories she had been told. She found herself unsure what to believe. That evening she returned to the gardens alone to think. She stared at the horizon where the twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. "Why am I so afraid?" she whispered to herself. He does not seem cruel yet. What if the stories are true? What if he hides a dark heart behind that calm face? A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and for a moment, Liara felt the weight of the entire galaxy on her shoulders. She was a princess expected to lead, to marry, to unite her people with a human warrior. And yet the fear inside her would not be silenced. As night fell, she made a silent vow to herself. "I will not be weak. I will see the truth for myself. But I must be careful. I cannot let my people be harmed, and I cannot let myself be deceived." Tomorrow she would meet the human face to face in the palace courtyard. The thought made her stomach twist with anxiety. She wondered if she could find the courage to look past the fear and see what kind of person Commander Kale truly was. The stars blinked above, distant and bright, as if reminding her that the universe was larger than her fears, and that sometimes courage was found in the most unexpected places. And somewhere in her heart, a small spark of curiosity began to grow. Perhaps humans were not all the monsters she had imagined. Perhaps there was more to this human than anyone had ever believed. But that thought was quickly chased away by a shiver of fear. She could not forget the warnings. Not yet. Liara turned back to the palace, her mind racing, her heart heavy, and her fear stronger than ever. She would face the human tomorrow, and the fate of her people and her own future hung in the balance. The story of trust, fear, and courage had begun. And the first step of an extraordinary journey was about to unfold. The morning sun rose over the crystal walls of Kalira's palace, bathing the city in gold and soft orange light. The palace courtyard was already alive with activity. Guards stood at attention, palace aides moved quickly, and curious courtiers whispered to one another. Today was the day Princess Liara would meet the human her father had chosen for her. Liara stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, her hands gripping the railing. Her heart raced. She had spent the night in a restless sleep, tossing and turning, her mind filled with images of the merciless human Commander Kale. She had imagined him as cruel, cold, and dangerous, a warrior who would not hesitate to harm anyone for his own gain. But a small part of her wondered, could he be different? Could the stories she had heard all her life be wrong? She shook her head. No, she could not allow herself to hope. Humans were not to be trusted. The sound of the massive gates opening broke her thoughts. All eyes in the courtyard turned to the main entrance. A hush fell over the crowd as a human starship descended from the sky, its landing thrusters glowing softly. Dust and small stones lifted into the air, creating a small whirlwind that danced across the courtyard. Liara's stomach twisted. The stories had been terrifying, yet seeing the human starship with her own eyes made her feel even smaller. It was a machine built for battle, sleek and strong, capable of traveling across the stars. The starship doors opened, and Commander Kyle stepped out. He was taller than most Kalarians, with short, dark hair and sharp, thoughtful eyes. His uniform was crisp, clean, and practical, with no unnecessary decoration. He walked steadily with an air of calm confidence that immediately drew attention. Kale scanned the courtyard, taking in the palace, the people, and the guards. His gaze was careful but respectful. He did not rush. He did not show aggression. Yet every movement spoke of discipline and strength. Liara stepped closer to the edge of the balcony, her heart pounding. She had expected something terrifying, but the human's presence, while commanding, was not cruel. Still, the fear inside her would not vanish. King Valor appeared beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Do not let your fear control you, Liara," he said softly. "See the truth for yourself before judging him." Liara swallowed hard. I will try, Father," she whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. Kale began walking toward the royal balcony, his movements precise. As he approached, he spoke in a clear, calm voice that carried across the courtyard. "Princess Liara, I come with respect for you and your people," he said. "I understand that my presence may bring fear, but my intentions are honorable. I seek to build trust and friendship, not to harm." The words surprised Liara. He spoke with such confidence and calmness that it was almost soothing. Yet she could not forget the warnings she had grown up with. Do not trust humans. They are merciless. They take what they want and leave nothing behind. The princess curtsied politely, though her hands shook slightly. I am Princess Liara," she said. "Welcome to Kalira." "Commander Kale." Kale bowed his head slightly in return. "Thank you, Princess. I am honored to meet you. I hope that over time I can prove myself worthy of your trust," the crowd murmured. Some of the nobles exchanged glances, unsure what to make of this human who spoke so politely yet carried himself with quiet strength. Over the next few hours, Kyle was formally introduced to the palace. He learned about the customs, the rules, and the history of Kalira. He asked questions respectfully and listened carefully to the answers. He did not rush. He did not demand. Liara watched him closely. Every time she thought of him as the merciless human she feared, he did something small that challenged that belief. He helped a servant who had dropped a tray of food, speaking kindly and encouragingly. He noticed a child in the courtyard who was lost and guided them safely back to their parent. Slowly, Liara's fear began to clash with curiosity. Perhaps humans were not all the monsters she had imagined. Perhaps Kale truly was different, yet the fear remained. She had heard countless stories of humans betraying trust, of showing strength only to dominate and destroy. Could she risk believing in this one human even if he seemed honorable? During lunch, Kyle joined the royal family and selected visors in a grand hall. The table was filled with foods Liara had never seen before, prepared with care and artistry. Kale observed politely, sampling the dishes with curiosity. He asked questions about each dish, showing interest in the culture and traditions of Kalira. Liara found herself intrigued despite herself. The human was learning, observing, and respecting their customs. He did not rush, he did not belittle, he did not act as if he were above anyone else. And yet, beneath his calm demeanor, Liara sensed power. He carried the presence of someone used to responsibility, someone who had faced danger and survived. After lunch, the king announced that Kale would participate in a small demonstration of the palace's customs. It was a tradition for visitors to experience the Kalirian art of strategy games, which combined intelligence, planning, and quick thinking. Liara's curiosity grew. She had watched generations of nobles play these games, testing wit and decision-making. If Kale could navigate this, perhaps she could learn more about him. Kale approached the game with a calm focus. He listened as the rules were explained, observing the board carefully. When it was his turn, he made moves with precision, thinking several steps ahead. His decisions were clever, fair, and effective. Liara could not help but watch closely. Each move he made seemed to reveal both intelligence and patience. He was not rushing, not showing arrogance, yet each action displayed skill that impressed even the seasoned players. When the game ended, Kale bowed to his opponents politely. "Thank you for teaching me this," he said. "It is an honor to learn from such skilled minds," the nobles murmured in surprise. Few humans had ever shown such respect for their traditions. Many had dismissed Kalirian customs as unimportant, but Kale had approached them with humility and care. Liara's heart raced with conflicting emotions. The human was everything the story said humans should not be: polite, intelligent, respectful, and cautious. And yet he was undeniably strong, disciplined, and capable. As the day came to an end, Liara found herself alone in the gardens once more. The memory of Kale's calm presence, his respect for her people, and his unexpected kindness stayed in her mind. I cannot decide what to think," she whispered to herself. "He is not cruel. He is not what I feared. But what if it is only an act? What if humans are not to be trusted?" The stars began to appear in the sky, twinkling like distant jewels. Liara walked slowly along the paths, the soft light of lanterns guiding her way. She realized that fear alone could not decide the truth. She would have to observe, to learn, and to see for herself who this human truly was. For the first time in her life, Liara felt a small spark of curiosity. Perhaps humans were not all as merciless as the story said. Perhaps this one human, Commander Kale, could be different, but she knew she must remain cautious. Trust was not easily given, especially when so much was at stake. Tomorrow, Kale would continue to explore the palace and meet more of her people. Liara would watch, question, and observe. She would not allow fear to control her entirely, yet she could not forget it either. The night air was cool and calming, and Liara took a deep breath. "I will see for myself," she whispered. "I will not be blinded by stories. I will learn the truth, even if it is difficult." Somewhere far above, Kale's starship rested under the twin moons, its metal surface reflecting the light of Kalira's skies. Inside, he too was preparing for the days ahead, unaware that the princess he was meant to unite with was filled with both fear and curiosity. The first step of their meeting had ended, but the story was far from over. The bond between human and princess, between two worlds, had only just begun to form, and somewhere in the tension between fear and understanding, a new chapter of hope and discovery waited to be written. The next morning, the palace of Kalira was alive with activity. Courtiers moved swiftly through the halls, and servants prepared food, decorations, and ceremonial items for the day ahead. Outside, the gardens glistened with dew, and fountains sparkled in the early sun. Princess Liara walked through the corridors, her hands folded tightly in front of her. Today she would observe Commander Kale more closely. The first day had left her confused. The human had been polite, careful, and respectful, but her fear had not fully disappeared. Humans, she reminded herself, were dangerous. Stories of merciless warriors haunted her mind. Still, curiosity had begun to take root. She could not deny it. Something about Kale's calm, deliberate actions made her wonder whether the tales were exaggerated. King Valor greeted her in the hall. "Today Kale will participate in the palace's trials," he said. "It is a tradition to test both intelligence and character. You will observe. Learn who he is through his actions, not just his words." Liara nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The palace trials were not mere games. They were carefully designed challenges that required strategy, quick thinking, and courage. They also revealed character. How a person reacted to difficulty, danger, or responsibility showed their true nature. Kale appeared in the courtyard shortly afterward, dressed in practical attire suitable for the trials. He bowed to the princess respectfully. "Princess Liara," he said, "I am ready to begin." Liara's heart raced. "I will observe," she replied, her voice hesitant. The first trial was a test of intellect. Several puzzles and strategy games were laid out on stone tables. Nobles watched carefully, curious to see if the human could adapt to Kalirian traditions. Kale approached each task slowly, studying the pieces, the rules, and the layout. He did not rush. He did not act superior. Instead, he asked questions when he needed clarification, and carefully planned each move. Liara watched, her fear mingling with surprise. The human was precise, intelligent, and calm. Each decision he made reflected careful thought, not arrogance. The trial ended with Kale completing the tasks efficiently. He bowed to the judges. "Thank you for your guidance," he said politely. "I have learned much from these challenges." Whispers ran through the crowd. Some nobles nodded in approval. Others were skeptical. A human completing these trials so smoothly was unusual, but it showed both intelligence and respect. Next came the physical trial. The gardens were filled with obstacles, low walls, streams, and small heights to climb. The trial tested agility, endurance, and quick thinking under pressure. Kale moved with controlled precision, never reckless. When a group of young palace trainees struggled to cross a collapsing bridge, Kale carefully guided them across, showing both skill and patience. Liara's chest tightened. She had expected aggression, a ruthless determination that would crush others to win. Instead, she saw caution, strategy, and kindness. Kale was strong, but he used his strength to help, not harm. As he finished the trial, Kale approached Liara. "Princess, may I ask your permission to speak with some of your people?" he said gently. "I would like to learn more about their lives and needs." Liara hesitated. It was unusual for a visitor to be so thoughtful. "You may," she said softly. Kale moved among the palace staff and citizens, asking questions about their lives. He listened carefully, never interrupting. When he saw a minor problem, he did not command or criticize. He offered solutions that respected both the people and the rules of the palace. By the end of the day, Liara's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The human she had feared was not merciless. He was careful, intelligent, and kind. He had strength, yes, but it was controlled, not reckless. He had skill, but he used it to protect rather than dominate. Yet fear lingered. She had grown up hearing stories of humans betraying trust. Could she truly believe that this one human was different? As the sun began to set, a sudden alarm echoed through the courtyard. Smoke rose from the gardens. A structure near the palace fountains had collapsed and several children were trapped beneath the debris. Panic spread among the guards and courtiers. Liara's heart raced. Without thinking, she ran toward the scene, but Kale was already there. He had seen the danger and moved immediately. Using his strength and careful calculation, he lifted heavy debris, freeing the children one by one. He directed the palace staff, ensuring everyone was safe, and stayed calm despite the chaos. Liara watched, stunned. The human she had feared had risked himself to save her people. He did not hesitate. He did not act recklessly. He acted with courage, intelligence, and care. When the last child was safe, Kyle looked up, his face calm but determined. "Everyone is safe," he said simply. "We must ensure this area is secure and repair it quickly." Liara could not speak. Her fear for a moment was replaced by a strange feeling. Respect, perhaps even admiration. The human was not what she had believed. He was more than skillful or strong. He cared for others, even strangers, and acted to protect rather than harm. That night, Liara walked through the palace gardens alone. The stars reflected in the fountains, and the soft sound of water was calming. She thought about the day, about Kale's actions, and about the stories she had heard. I don't understand," she whispered to herself. "He is different. He is kind, careful, and strong. But can I trust him? Can humans truly be like this?" The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment Liara felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps the world was not as black and white as she had been taught. Perhaps fear alone could not decide the truth. She remembered her father's words. "See the truth for yourself before judging him." Liara realized she had taken the first step toward understanding. She had seen Kale's actions, and they had challenged her beliefs. The human was not merciless. He was not cruel, he was honorable. Yet the princess knew she must remain cautious. Trust was earned, not given. She would watch, learn, and observe. She would see if Kale's actions continued to reflect the courage and care he had shown today. As she looked at the stars above Kalira, Liara felt a mixture of fear and curiosity. The human she had dreaded meeting might be the very person who could change her understanding of humans forever. Somewhere in the palace, Kyle was reviewing the day. Noting the culture, customs, and people of Kalira, he had begun to see the value in understanding a new world, respecting its people, and moving with care. He did not yet know if the princess would trust him, but he knew that actions, not words, would build that bridge. The night deepened and the palace grew quiet. Liara returned to her chambers, her mind full of thoughts and questions. Fear still lingered, but so did a new feeling, a cautious hope that humans, at least this human, could be different. Tomorrow, Kale would continue to explore the palace, meet more of her people, and face new challenges. Liara would watch closely. She would question everything she had been taught about humans, and she would try to see the truth for herself. And somewhere deep inside, she wondered, could a human truly be honorable, brave, and kind? Could one human change the way an entire princess viewed an entire species? The story was far from over. The trust between human and princess was just beginning to form, and the journey toward understanding, courage, and perhaps friendship or more was only beginning. The stars shone brightly over Kalira, a reminder that the universe was vast, full of surprises, and that sometimes courage and trust could grow in the most unexpected places. The morning sky over Kalira was calm, the twin suns casting warm light over the city. Birds chirped in the gardens and palace workers moved about, preparing for the day. Princess Liara walked along a balcony, her thoughts still focused on Commander Kyle. The events of the last 2 days had left her feeling confused and uncertain. Kyle had proven himself intelligent, careful, and kind. He had respected her people, followed traditions, and even helped during the garden accident. And yet the fear within her would not fully disappear. Humans, she reminded herself, were known for their ruthlessness. Could she truly believe that this one human was different? As she pondered, a sharp alarm sounded across the palace. The guards rushed to their posts and advisors hurriedly gathered near the king. Liara felt her heart tighten. Something was wrong. King Valor stepped forward, his face serious. "Princess Liara," he said, "we have an incoming threat. A hostile alien fleet has been detected near our sector. They are approaching Kalira with weapons ready. Kale, your presence may be needed immediately." Kale appeared beside them, his expression calm but focused. "Understood, Your Majesty." "Princess Liara, I suggest we move to the command hall to assess the situation and plan a response." Liara hesitated. Fear gripped her chest. She had never faced a real battle. She had seen the stories, heard the rumors, and imagined horrors. And now that threat was real, approaching her home, her people, and perhaps even her. But Kale's calm presence gave her a strange sense of security. Despite the danger, he did not panic. He did not shout or rush. Instead, he acted with purpose and careful thought. Together, they moved to the palace command hall. Large holographic screens displayed the approaching fleet, sleek ships armed with powerful energy weapons. Kalira's defenses were prepared but not fully ready. The enemy was fast and their numbers were significant. Kale studied the display carefully. "We must protect the city and minimize harm to your people," he said. "I suggest we coordinate a defense strategy, using the terrain and our fleet's strengths. Panic will be our enemy, not just them." The advisors looked at him in surprise. Few humans had ever shown such focus in a crisis situation. Kale did not command them harshly or dismiss their opinions. He listened, considered their advice, and offered strategies that incorporated their knowledge while using his own experience. Princess Liara watched silently. She felt a mix of fear and awe. The human she had dreaded was now leading a plan to save her people. He was not merciless. He was not cruel. He was calculating, strategic, and protective. The enemy fleet entered Kalira's atmosphere. The palace alarms blared and citizens looked to the sky frightened. Kale moved swiftly, directing Kalira's defenses. Energy shields were activated, defensive drones deployed, and warning systems sent civilians to safety zones. Liara followed him to a high observation deck. From there, she could see the alien ships moving like predators aiming to strike the city. Kyle's hands moved over the holographic controls, issuing precise commands to the defenders. He spoke calmly, even as explosions and energy beams lit the skies. "Focus on protecting the civilians first," he said. "Our goal is to minimize casualties, not just to fight. Keep the enemy ships separated and target their weaknesses." Liara felt her fear slowly shift into admiration. This human, so strong, so disciplined, and so calm, was risking himself to save her world. Every move he made was careful, every decision calculated. He did not seek glory. He sought protection, not victory for himself. The battle intensified. Kale coordinated attacks from Kalira's fleet, guiding pilots to precise positions. When a group of enemy ships attempted to break through the defensive shields, Kale personally directed countermeasures, anticipating the enemy's movements before they could act. One ship moved dangerously close to the palace. Liara's breath caught. Could they hold it back? Before she could think, Kale activated a defensive pulse, forcing the ship to retreat without destroying it entirely. It was a careful, measured strike that neutralized the threat without unnecessary destruction. Liara realized then that this was what her people needed. A protector, not a conqueror. Kale had the strength and skill to defend Kalira, but he also had the wisdom to do it safely. The battle continued for hours. Civilians were evacuated, defensive positions held, and Kale remained calm throughout. giving instructions and encouragement to both humans and Calirians alike. His leadership inspired confidence. Even the nervous courtiers began to trust him. By late afternoon, the enemy fleet had been forced to retreat. Calira's defenses had held, thanks to Kale's strategy and careful planning. The city was battered, with some structures damaged, but casualties were minimal. Princess Liara stepped onto the balcony, looking over the city. Relief washed over her, and for the first time she felt a sense of awe toward Kale. He had faced danger without hesitation, putting himself at risk to save her people. She turned to him. "Commander Kale, you saved us. You risked yourself for us." Her voice faltered. Words were difficult. She had feared him, and now she could see the truth. He was brave, honorable, and protective. Kyle looked at her, calm but sincere. "I did what I must, Princess. Your people's safety was my priority. That is all that matters." Liara's eyes filled with a mixture of respect and disbelief. She had judged him by stories and fears, but his actions had shown her something entirely different. Humans could be merciful. Humans could be brave. Humans could care. King Valor approached, his face softened with pride. "Liara," he said gently, "do you see now? Humans are not simply merciless warriors. They can be honorable and protective. This human, Commander Kale, has proven his loyalty and courage." Liara nodded slowly, still overwhelmed by what she had witnessed. I see, Father. He is not what I expected. He is different." Kale stepped closer. "Princess, I understand your fear. Humans have a reputation, and stories can create mistrust. But actions, not stories, show who we truly are. I am not here to harm. I am here to protect and to build trust between our peoples." Liara's heart softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope. Perhaps humans were not all the monsters she had imagined. Perhaps this one human could be trusted. That night, the palace held a small ceremony to honor the defenders and those who had helped protect the city. Kale was recognized for his leadership and bravery, and the court began to see him in a new light. Even the most skeptical nobles could not deny his calm courage and careful thinking. Liara walked through the gardens afterward, thinking of the day's events. She realized that fear alone could not guide her judgment. Trust must be earned, and Kale had earned hers, not by words, but by actions. The stars shone brightly above Calira, reflecting in the fountains and casting silver light across the paths. Liara stood quietly, her thoughts focused on the human who had once terrified her. Now he had become someone she respected, someone she could imagine working alongside, perhaps even learning from. And deep inside, a small spark of something new began to grow, a cautious admiration, a sense of curiosity, and the faintest hint of hope. Perhaps humans were capable of more than she had ever imagined. Perhaps one human at least could change everything. As Kale reviewed the day's events in his quarters, he reflected on the battle. It had been difficult, but careful planning and respect for Calira's people had made the difference. He did not seek glory, only the protection of the innocent and the success of the mission. The bond between Princess Liara and Commander Kale was growing, slowly but surely. Through courage, intelligence, and careful action, fear still lingered, but so did trust. And in the days to come, that trust would be tested further, as new challenges and choices awaited them both. The story was far from over. The human and the princess had survived their first trial together, and Calira had seen a glimpse of the strength and honor humans could possess. The future promised even greater challenges, and even greater opportunities for understanding and cooperation between worlds. For now, under the twin moons of Calira, a cautious peace settled over the palace. And somewhere in the quiet night, Princess Liara allowed herself to imagine that perhaps the merciless human she had feared was, in truth, a protector, a leader, and perhaps a friend. The palace of Calira had never been more alive. Citizens and nobles alike moved with renewed energy, repairing damage from the recent attack and celebrating the defenders who had kept the city safe. The twin suns reflected brightly off the crystal walls, making the entire city glitter as if it were alive. Princess Liara walked through the corridors with a steady pace. The past few days had changed everything. Fear, which had once gripped her heart, had begun to dissolve, replaced by curiosity, respect, and even admiration. Commander Kale, the human she had feared, had proven himself brave, intelligent, and honorable. He had risked his life to protect her people, and every action he took reflected thoughtfulness and care. Yet, despite everything, Liara knew the final test of trust was not just in action, it was in her heart. Could she truly believe in Kale? Could she accept him not only as a protector, but as someone she could depend on, someone she could respect fully? Kale entered the palace gardens that morning, walking toward Liara with calm confidence. The city was peaceful for now, but both of them knew that peace was fragile. Even so, there was an unspoken connection growing between them, built on shared experience and mutual respect. "Princess Liara," Kale said, bowing slightly. "I hope you are well this morning." Liara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I am better than I have been in a long time. Commander Kale, you have shown my people courage and honesty. I have seen what humans can be through your actions." Kale's eyes softened. "I am glad. It is important that we understand each other, Princess. Fear can separate us, but understanding can unite us. That is why I came. To protect, to learn, and to build trust between our worlds." Liara looked down for a moment, gathering her courage. I see that now. You have shown me that humans are not all the monsters I was taught to fear. You are honorable, brave, merciful where others might be reckless." Kale smiled gently. "Actions speak louder than words, and I intend to continue proving that trust is not misplaced." The day progressed with more preparations for a formal gathering in the palace hall. The event was meant to honor the citizens who had defended Kalira, but it also served as an opportunity for the court to recognize Kale's contributions. The room was filled with nobles, advisors, and dignitaries from surrounding cities, all curious to see how the human who had once been feared would be received. When Kale entered the hall, there was a brief moment of silence. The courtiers had expected a fearsome, merciless warrior. Instead, they saw a disciplined, calm, and respectful figure, radiating confidence and honor. Whispers spread quickly. Even the most skeptical nobles could not deny his courage and intelligence. King Valor stepped forward, addressing the assembly. "Today we honor those who protected our city during the recent threat. But I also wish to acknowledge Commander Kale, a human whose bravery, wisdom, and care have proven invaluable. He has risked himself for Kalira, showing that humans can be more than stories and rumors suggest." Liara watched the human closely. He remained humble, bowing slightly and acknowledging the praise without arrogance. Every gesture reflected the same careful thought she had seen since his arrival. As the ceremony ended, Liara approached Kale privately. The soft glow of lanterns cast long shadows across the marble floors, and the quiet of the hallway allowed her to speak freely. "Commander Kale," she began, her voice steady, "I have seen your actions. I have observed your courage and care, and I believe that humans can be honorable. I believe in you." Kale looked at her, calm yet attentive. "Princess Liara, your trust means more than words can express. I will continue to earn it not just today, but always." Liara took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "Then I am ready. I will accept you, not only as a protector of my people, but as a partner. My father has chosen wisely. I am ready to take this step." Kyle's expression softened further, a faint smile appearing. "Princess, it is an honor. I promise to protect, to serve, and to uphold the trust you have placed in me. Together, we can build a stronger future for our peoples." The next day, the palace held a formal ceremony to announce the new alliance. Citizens filled the streets outside, curious and excited. The palace hall was adorned with banners celebrating unity and trust between Kalira and Earth. Nobles and dignitaries took their places, whispering about the human who had once been feared, but now stood as a symbol of courage and honor. Liara walked beside Kale as the ceremony began. She felt a strange mixture of calm and excitement. Fear was no longer the driving force in her heart. Instead, there was trust, hope, and the knowledge that humans could indeed be allies and friends. King Valor addressed the assembly, his voice ringing through the hall. "Today we mark a new chapter in Kalira's history. Princess Liara will join with Commander Kale, a human whose actions have shown wisdom, courage, and honor. This union is more than personal. It is a bond between our worlds, a promise of cooperation, respect, and peace." Applause filled the room. Liara felt a sense of pride and relief. She had faced her fear, observed the truth, and made a choice based on what she had seen and felt. Kale's actions had proven that humans could be more than the stories and rumors suggested. When the ceremony ended, Liara and Kale stood together on the balcony overlooking the city. Citizens waved and cheered, celebrating not just the union of two people, but the unity of two worlds. "Princess Liara," Kale said softly, "today is the beginning of something greater than either of us. Together we can build trust, friendship, and peace between our peoples." Liara nodded, her eyes shining. "Yes, Commander Kale, and I will stand beside you not out of fear but out of trust and respect. Together we will face whatever challenges come and we will protect our people." Kale placed a hand gently over hers. "Then we begin together. Not as conqueror and subject, but as partners, as friends, and as allies." For the first time, Liara felt truly at ease. The fear that had once gripped her heart was gone, replaced by hope and confidence. She had learned that courage and honor could be found in unexpected places, that trust could be built through actions, and that humans, at least one, could inspire respect and admiration. The twin moons rose over Kalira that night, casting silver light across the palace gardens. Liara and Kale walked side by side, their steps in rhythm, their hearts aligned. The city below was safe, the people united, and a new chapter in history had begun. In the days that followed, Kale continued to work with the Kalirians, helping to rebuild the city and strengthen its defenses. Liara learned from him, observing his strategies, his careful planning, and his respect for life. Together, they became a symbol of cooperation, showing that humans and aliens could work side by side, not as enemies, but as allies. Stories of Kale's courage spread across Kalira and to neighboring worlds. What had once been fear turned into admiration. And for Liara, the human she had once feared became a trusted friend, a leader she respected and a partner she would walk beside for the rest of her life. The palace gates opened wide, and citizens celebrated in the streets, their cheers echoing through the city. Liara stood beside Kale, watching the people with pride. She realized that fear had been a shadow over her heart, but trust and understanding had illuminated a new path. The story of the merciless human, once feared by all, had changed. Kale's actions had rewritten the tale, not as a story of terror, but as a story of honor, courage, and hope. And in the heart of Kalira, a new alliance had been forged, one that would shape the future for generations to come. Liara looked at Kale and smiled. "No longer a stranger, no longer a fear. Together we are stronger." Kale returned her smile. "Together, Princess Liara. Always together." The stars shone brightly over Kalira that night, reflecting the promise of peace, trust, and unity. And as the city rested, the bond between a princess and a human, once feared, now trusted, stood as a symbol that courage, honor, and understanding could conquer fear and bring light to even the darkest of stories.